Well, so I think we can start. Good morning, everybody, once again. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. It's such a great privilege and pleasure having you here. And on behalf of this group, we feel very grateful for the generosity and of your precious time. And as I mentioned in our emails, this is a group composed by business and thought leaders of many of Brazil's leading companies. And under this leadership program, we are debating critical issues every month based on a book that is selected to serve as the starting point for the discussions. And a couple of months ago, we were discussing the theme, how can we create organizations centered on people and not on bureaucracy, based on the book Humanocracy. And while we were having this conversation with the book author, Michel Zanini, we ended up talking about your projet de responsabilisation, something between empowerment and accountability, which has been hailed by the Financial Times as a great experiment and a management revolution. So thanks to our member, Ieda Yel, who is also here today and is a member of many boards around the world, we have managed to reach you through her contacts with both Jean-Dominique Senard, the former CEO of Michelin, and Adeline Chelon-Kimou, which is a member of the executive committee. So this is the story, Sarah. We couldn't be in better hands, as you are the Vice President of Manufacturing Operational Excellence and has been responsible for industrial performance management for more than 30 years in many plants around the world. So thank you once again. Thanks to the other guests who that have joined us today for this very special meeting, and we'll be very pleased and grateful to hear you, Sarah. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alexandre, and thank you to all who are joining us today. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and I risk to talk more than I should. So, Alexandre, I depend on you to help me manage the time. Okay. But at this point, I will tell you a little bit about me in the presentation. So I would propose that we just get started with, I would say, some of the information that I'd like to share. And then you'll see at the end, I talk a little bit about myself.
Perfect. So, and, okay, so I'm going to share here, okay, your presentation. Perfect. And skip the slides.
Perfect. So, as Alexandre said, I work with Group Michelin. Right now, I'm currently positioned in France as the Vice President of Operational Excellence for Manufacturing. But I didn't start here. So I would propose that I tell you a little bit about Group Michelin first, and then I will get into the journey of responsibilization, and then a little bit about myself. So, Alexandre, next slide, please. So the agenda is pretty straightforward today. A little bit about the group, a little bit about my definition for operational excellence, and how empowerment within Michelin plays a part of our operational excellence strategy, and then a little bit about how that came about with me personally, not claiming to be the mother or the father of responsibilization within Michelin at all. So next slide. So let's hear a little bit about Michelin. It's a video which can express who we are much better than me.
Okay.
Travel, transport, discover, encounter. Since the beginning of time, mobility is synonymous with development. Today, it transforms the world we live in at lightning speed. What will our future look like? It's up to us to invent tomorrow's world. How can we ensure our mobility is safer, cleaner, more enjoyable, more accessible, and more eco-friendly? How can we offer everyone a better way forward? That's our purpose. At Michelin, we have been blazing new trails and unlocking the secrets of materials for more than a century. Because there is more to a tire than meets the eye. Tens of thousands of men and women of all nationalities work each day to bring new solutions to life. In research, industry, services, distribution, and design. Just imagine. Working with the tiniest of particles through nanotechnology, exploring living matter with biotechnology, mastering complex processes, transforming materials like rubber, sulfur, and steel, developing innovative 3D metal printing to attain truly exceptional performance. Our materials are born of natural resources. Growing rubber trees, protecting them from disease, safeguarding entire forests with the aid of NGOs, helping farmers set up their businesses and get the most from their land. Respecting mankind, our planet and resources, saving energy, using every last ounce to conserve raw materials, and continue offering you ever better performance. More than 350 different professions help make a single tire. Men and women around the world work together to reduce CO2 emissions and streamline traffic flows thanks to digital solutions, and to promote the transition to renewable energy. Inventing intermodal solutions in big cities, rethinking our approach to long-haul freight transportation, improving fleet management, testing shared mobility solutions, giving more people access to affordable mobility. New cities, new lifestyles, new connections. Services that are closer, more interactive and safer, better all around. More technology, more digital, so more choice, more freedom, and more enjoyment for a truly unique travel experience. Because we are with you when it matters, ensuring long-lasting performance. Mile after mile, year in and year out, we strive to offer everyone a better way forward.
Okay, so that's Michelin. It's my Michelin. It's all of our Michelin. All of the 124,000 people across the world at the 117 production sites in 170 countries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can see the key figures on our slide. That's who we are. It's who we strive to be, better and better. And when we mentioned a good company, and we've mentioned a better way forward, we strive to make a better way forward for our customers and also for us as employees, as members of the Michelin family. Next slide, please.
I'm kind of slow here, right, Sarah?
Okay. So when I joined the Michelin company about 35 years ago, I learned values. I learned these values. So these are not new, okay, the pictures get updated, but the values have been there for a long time. I can't tell you when they first came up, but I remember learning them when I first joined. And the thing that really struck me was that they all start with the word respect. And that's a key thing when we're talking about people, whether it's our customers, whether it's the shareholders, whether it's our internal employees. It's all about people, and people have respect for the environment. And one that you may find a little strange, but it was always really important to me, was respect for the facts. That's a key thing. And it's not just the facts and figures that you've just seen on that slide. It's the facts when we make decisions. It's the facts when we make commitments to our customers, to our employees. So these values are really core for who we are as a company. Next slide, please. So you may think, well, okay, blah, blah, blah. That sounds like a nice thing to say, but why do you say that? And as you may have seen in the video, you may have noticed tire manufacturing, okay, it's a manufacturing business. Now, it's not like an automobile manufacturer. It's not like an assembly line. It's a whole series of automatic and manual processes that transform materials. As you've seen in the video, there's raw materials. There's natural rubber. There's steel. There's many different chemicals. So it's a process. It's not an assembly line. Now, like other companies, we are in a digital transformation, but it's not about technology. It's easy to point to a device. It's easy to point to a sensor. It's easy to see a really neat thing on a screen, and those exist. What we strive to do is to have technology and all of these things at the service of our people. People remain at the heart of our manufacturing processes. So much so, just an example, our plants worldwide are able to run nights and weekends without supervision. Now, that may sound strange, but it's the way it is. I've lived it. Now, how do we do that? Well, it all goes back to empowerment. And it's been in our DNA as a company since the early days. One of the interesting quotations that I like to cite is from Edouard Michelin. So he's one of the founders. And he said this back in 1928. He said, one of our principles is to give the responsibility to the person who does the task, because he knows a lot about the issue. And when we give him the responsibility, it often reveals to himself abilities that he did not suspect and that make him progress. I find that amazing that that was said in 1928, almost 100 years ago. And so I'm inspired by our Michelin. Next slide, please. Now, when I've said that I'm responsible for operational excellence in manufacturing, sounds good, but what does that mean? Well, for us, it means, okay, we're a company of engineers, so we have a model for a lot of things. So my model in operational excellence is based on three main pillars. And those pillars are people, and that's highly skilled, competent, engaged people. It's based on having a process that is stable. We're in manufacturing, so we need repeatability. We need a process that's stable, not only on the machines, but on the work processes that we have. And we need a system that helps our people and our procedures work together the same way every time, all over the world. Now, we've got this big ampersand in the middle. We have to have all three of those at the same time, and we have to master them. And even that is not enough. You see the arrow at the bottom, industry transformations. We go from industry 3.0, we are in industry 4.0 now, and we will come to industry 5.0 at some point, and et cetera, et cetera. The key is to be able to hold all of those glass balls, if you will, in the air and master them while everything around us is changing. And that's so important because at the end of the day, operational excellence cannot be copied. We can show you our machines, we can show you our systems. I can do every video in the world, but until our people, myself, all of us put our heart into going for excellence, it's not going to mean anything, because there's so much more that we can be doing if our heart is in the process and we go for excellence, because you cannot copy that no matter what. So with that background of what do I mean by operational excellence, next slide, please. You saw in that little model, there was a heart. And one of the things that we have in Michelin is a thing that we call I care. And it describes our leadership principles. And there's a lot of words behind all of the words on this slide, but the I care is an acronym starting with I for inspiring, C for create trust, A for awareness of ourselves, R for results, and E for empowerment. And all of these things are meant to help us be inspiring people and leaders. And we write this down because we want to affirm to ourselves, why is it important to touch the heart of our people? Well, it's important because we want to give a better way forward, not only for our customers, also for our employees. We believe that every one of us can be a leader. It's not only a hierarchy position. And we believe that when we empower our people, we unleash the leader in all of us. And so that's why we want to touch the hearts of our people. When we look at the what are we doing? How are we touching the hearts? Next slide, please. When we talk about a responsible organization, and I'm sorry this is in French, but I did a copy of a slide and I didn't have time to get back and do all of the translations. But we have had in our company principles of organizations that are responsible. And I'll try to explain the graphic. In an empowered organization, we're all working to achieve the same mission. So that's why you see the une mission in the blue circle. And our team, each of the manufacturing teams are engaged in three main pillars of performance, or going back to the I care model, results, development of our people, and the well-being of the team. And when we look at those three main areas, and you see the word spoke and tech and things on the backs of the cartoon figures, a spoke is someone who works who has a certain specialty, and he works to help his teammates in that specialty. So it could be quality, it could be safety, it could be personnel related issues. Now, this is a part-time job. It's not a full-time job, but they take on that additional duty to help their colleagues. And they do that all within a defined parameter. So in today's words, that would be a reserved space. And they have defined their reserved space, and they all have a team manual. Now, this is at most every level in our company. In manufacturing, in our company, this goes all the way from the shop floor operators all the way up to the direction team of manufacturing. I mean, for example, last week, we were looking at our team manual in the process of updating it. We just updated it back in 2018. Now we're updating it again. So we hold ourselves accountable, and we care about each other and our company. So that's the core principles of a responsible organization. We trust each other, we develop ourselves, we're empowered to make the decisions at the point of action, we hold ourselves accountable, and we hold each other accountable, and we care about each other and our company. So those are the principles. Now, when you look at that, it may sound, well, that's easy, anybody can do it. Well, I'm going to tell you, for us, it has been a journey, because even though I said it is in the DNA of our company, It is, but it's not automatic. I had the opportunity to live and work in China for about 8 years to build a factory and then start it up. And this model in China was not known, not recognized, wasn't normal in our operations. And in fact, we started that company up, or that plant up, that with a classic supervisory model, supervisors on weekends and nights and everything to start it up. Well, within about 3 years of our first tire, we started this empowerment journey. And these little pictures, if you watch where the little blue icon goes, it's very telling about the empowerment phase. So if you start out the classic model, everything goes through the supervisor. That's what those lines mean. The members of the team that go through the supervisor. In the first phase, the supervisor is still very much in charge of the team, but you start to have some connections between team members in addition to the supervisor. Then in the next phase, you start to have many, many more connections between team members and between what we call a business unit leader. And then when you go to the next phase, I don't want to say it's the last one, but it's the one that we have developed so far. The business unit leader is there for support, and all of the decisions within their defined space are taken by the team. So we are searching for this development. And I will tell you, we don't have all of our plants today operating in phase 3. Most all of them are operating in phase 2 right now. And those are the ones that are operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the supervisor in that position. He's there to help the team. He's part of the team, but there's nobody on nights and weekends making those decisions that are being made by the operators. And we do this using that operational excellence model that develops people, that works on getting those processes more and more stable within a worldwide system of manufacturing. What I'd like to do next is what I've told you is just it's not only the theory, it's how things work. But I'd like to share with you a very short video that we did at a plant not very long ago. And this is a plant that is actually running in what I would call phase 3. So Alexandre, if you can advance and go to the next slide.
Sure. I think it's not the second.
Dans le cadre de
Yes, we are seeing now and hearing.
Dans le cadre de la transformation de notre usine, on voulait absolument aussi donner la main à nos agents, changer notre mode de management et arriver à faire que nos agents puissent prendre en compte les décisions. Et le MAPP s'appliquait parfaitement pour faire émerger les bonnes idées, les actions, les chantiers que l'on a mis en œuvre.
Quand je suis arrivé, c'est vrai qu'on faisait ce qu'on nous disait de faire en fait, et que maintenant, oui, on n'attend pas que le manager vienne nous dire quoi faire. C'est nous qui prenons les devants et qui faisons sans l'aide du manager.
On m'a donné de la responsabilité, de l'autonomie, et voilà, on se dit tout avec nos collègues, ce qui nous permet d'être autonome.
Comme on s'entend très bien, et puis même si on s'entend pas très bien, on se dit les choses, et du coup, on aime bien finalement, on apprécie de le faire en fait.
Effectivement, des doutes, j'en ai eu. Moi, je suis quelqu'un de très contrôlant. Et quand on veut responsabiliser ses équipes, leur donner l'autonomie, et ben en fait, on est obligé d'avoir une partie de lâcher prise. Et ça, au départ, ça fait quand même vraiment peur. Ça met beaucoup de doutes. Est-ce que du coup, je vais être vu comme un bon chef si je suis plus capable de maîtriser ce qui se passe sur le terrain? Ça, c'est vraiment les premiers doutes qui ont eu lieu.
Pour démarrer tout ça, ça prend du temps. Et quand vous êtes dans un schéma classique de management, de faire comprendre à l'équipe que moi je suis responsable d'îlot et je veux faire partie de l'équipe et je ne suis pas sur un piédestal, associer tout le monde à un business, il faut déjà s'assurer que tout le monde comprenne bien le business.
Forcément, au début, on a un peu d'appréhension, on se dit que ça va être compliqué. Il y a des fois des choses qui se passent qui ça se passe pas comme on voudrait, donc oui, forcément, il y a des tensions.
Il y a toujours des tensions dans une équipe, c'est normal, parce qu'il n'y a pas les mêmes caractères, pas la même personne. Donc, après, on finit toujours par trouver une décision. On essaie de discuter autour des règles d'action et trouver un accord ensemble, quoi.
Et il y a beaucoup d'outils qui ont été mis en place. Les règles focus sur la partie sécurité, il y a les feedbacks collectifs, les personnes qui en groupe sont capables de se donner les choses. Il y a les augmentations individuelles. Donc là, les gens entre eux se donnent leurs augmentations en partageant leur niveau de salaire, qui était hier tabou et qui était aujourd'hui un vrai sujet entre les équipes. Se partagent aussi leurs performances individuelles et collectives, et ça c'est des choses qu'on n'avait pas. Donc voilà, il y a beaucoup d'outils qui ont été créés sur la responsabilisation.
On a développé les outils tout au long de ce processus, toujours de manière très collective, en associant de plus en plus la partie opérateur.
Les managers nous font confiance. Je pense, vraiment, ils nous font confiance, ils nous disent, voilà, ils voient si ça marche ou pas de toute façon, et ça marche.
Personnellement, on en veut toujours plus en fait. On veut qu'ils nous donnent encore plus de responsabilisation. Quand on le fait, on aime ça, même si c'est déjà énorme. On en veut toujours plus en fait.
Plus on se sent autonome et responsable dans l'usine, plus on se sent engagé. Et en fait, c'est vraiment cet engagement qui donne de la performance. En fait, vous ne pouvez pas avoir de performance si vous avez des personnes qui ne sont pas engagées.
Est-ce qu'aujourd'hui, les équipiers des personnes que vous avez interviewées sont prêts à faire marche arrière? Personnellement, je suis convaincu que non. Quand vous avez des équipes épanouies, ça vaut tout l'or du monde, quoi, en fait. Ça vaut tout l'or du monde.
Very good.
So that was not my words, but our teammates. As I said, I would share a little bit about who I am. I'm not going to go into all of these different little boxes on there, but I've kind of made the tour of the world. Haven't had the opportunity to live and work in Brazil, but I've been there many times. We have we have two relatively large plants there, one in Campo Grande and one in Resende. So I've worked kind of all over the world. Next slide, please. And what I have found in the world is that people are basically the same. Now, this is the world according to Sarah. We all have a heart. We want to love and be loved. We want to feel needed and useful. And when the what is very clear, we will figure out the how. It's as simple as that. Next slide, please. And when I tell you my leadership philosophy, that sounds like it's a big deal, but in reality, it's the result of many coaches along the way. I enjoy reading. I've read the book Humanocracy. I've read a lot of different books through my time because I enjoy learning. So I picked and choose some people that I really admire. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. To love is to be vulnerable. And in the past, jobs were about muscles. Now they're about brains. In the future, they'll be about the heart. The last slide I'd like to share with you. Well, not only thank you for your attention, but just a word about the responsabilization journey. It's not something that is automatic. It's not something that is intuitive. It's something that you got to really want to do. And it's not an event, it's a process. So I hope this little explanation of responsabilization at Michelin has helped you understand it and maybe even inspired you to take this journey in your companies. So that's all I have to say.
So Sarah, thank you so much again. it's very important to hear these words that are apparently so simple but so profound, and which touch deep on everyone. I'm pretty sure about that. So I'm going to kick off this conversation with an initial question, and then I'm going to open for other questions from the members here from our group. Okay. So my first question is that many people believe that organizational change, particularly in large companies like Michelin, can only occur from the top down, as a result of decisions stemming from the senior management team. Can we say that at Michelin, this huge process of change by freeing these frontline teams to operate more independently, this process has been mostly bottom up, or at least middle up? I ask this because in the book Humanocracy, they emphasize, for instance, the role performed by a middle manager named Bertrand Ballarand as a trigger for this process. So if you could share your views on that with us, we would appreciate very much. Thank you.
Okay. It's interesting because I know Bertrand. I worked with him. He was in Shanghai when I was in Shenyang. So I have a lot of respect for Bertrand. Bertrand obviously did not do the responsabilization all alone. In fact, if you go back to 2004, it's when we, I would say, codified our Michelin manufacturing way. And we did that based on responsible organizations that we wanted to have. And so part of it was bottom up, I would say even middle up, and certainly Bertrand was part of the team that codified what does it mean to have a responsible organization. Mm-hmm. There were other people that were saying, what does it mean to have that system? What is that system that we need? Okay, it's not a copy paste of the Toyota production system, etc. And then there was this question of empowerment above and beyond what happens on the shop floor. It's what happens at the different levels in our company, because we've all got hierarchy company attachments. And one of the things that has been proven over time is that the empowerment, it has to be in the desire and the I would say the tenets, the guiding principles stated at the top. It can be a middle up, it can even be a bottom up. But one thing is clear, if the top does not practice empowerment, it becomes very difficult for the guys, all the next levels down and all the way down to the shop floor to practice empowerment. Because what happens is that the guys in the middle get squeezed. If the guys at the top are trying to delegate a mission or the tasks, and the guys at the bottom are trying to delegate and ask for more responsibilities, the guys in the middle get squeezed. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a difficult job to do no matter where you are. So when we are into a factory organization, for example, and they say, look, we want to go the next step with empowerment, help us, and my team animates some of those help us workshops, the first thing that we ask is, okay, direction team at the plant, you have got to start with yourself. You have got to set the example. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not ready to go the next step. So it depends on where the top is. You can always bind a boss, but that's what we require at a factory. And that's what I require of my own team. So perfect. I hope that helps.
So Angela, would like to make a question?
Yes, thank you. Congratulations, Sarah, for your presentation and for this great example of empowerment. Well, thank you for being here in this exclusive session of Virtuous Program Leadership. And I have a question about the role of the board of directors? Because since we have here a lot of directors and C-level executives, I would like to know what has been the role of the board when this started long before in all this process of change. Did it support the initiative from the inception, or it required to be convinced during a time? How was the role of the board?
Well, what I'm going to tell you is what I have experienced. When Edouard Michelin was the president of our company, unfortunately, he was killed in a tragic accident in 2006. But in 2004, he was, I would say, not so happy because he saw when he would visit these manufacturing entities all over the world, he would see these pockets of excellence, and maybe just 10, 20 kilometers down the road, there was another site, and he didn't see that same pocket of excellence. And he came back and he said, this has got to stop. We have to have a codified system and a codified manufacturing system. And it's got to be based on these best practices that we have seen. And so he saw best practices of empowerment. He saw best practices of really controlled processes. He saw best practices of super engagement on the shop floors, but he didn't see them everywhere. And that's when he came back to the manufacturing team and says, get your act together, make these best practices the norm everywhere. And so in terms of the leadership from the board, it was leadership from the CEO himself saying, we have got to do this. And so when he would take members of the internal board with him to manufacturing plants to see the operations, he would always ask with those other members of the board, okay, show me how we are doing on putting in place these principles, these foundations of manufacturing excellence, and show me, obviously you only show the good examples, but show me how you're doing and what are your challenges today. And so in many ways, he drove a lot of that, and he not only gave his leadership, but he also onboarded the internal teams to say, this is the way we're going to run this company. And so since then, it has just been a given. This is the way we operate. And so that onboarding happened, 20 years ago, I would say officially. I'm sure it was the case before, but what I lived through myself is when all of that happened, it was a very, very CEO-driven and led initiative.
Great. And Ieda, please, and let me once again thank you, Ieda, for being the bridge that made this possible, for putting us in contact here. So
thanks. The bridge where the Michelin tires run through. Thanks, Sarah, and I would thank John Dominique because even he's not the CEO of Michelin anymore. He made all the efforts to help us. John Dominique is really a gentleman, a very good person.
Yes, he is.
My question for you is the following: when you have all these new experiences in terms of new models and so on, we tend to see what the metrics are in terms of results. So how would you say these phases and these experiences at Michelin have contributed in terms of 3 areas? First one is productivity. The second one is attrition levels. Third one is attraction of talents. Did you see improvements, and did you measure the improvement after you implemented this empowerment experience?
It's a good question, Ieda. We do measure. I don't measure exactly the ones that you're mentioning. Within manufacturing, we have our strategic indicators. And what my team does is we measure across the world how a plant is doing against those strategic indicators. And those are things like the safety. They're things like engagement, the environmental footprint, the return on investments, right the first time, etc. There's 8 of them. And I measure worldwide how each plant is progressing on those metrics. That's on one axis. On the other axis, I put application of our Michelin manufacturing foundations. Included in that is a chapter on people and our production system. And on people, we have things like we have a self-assessment radar for each of our teams to say, how are they doing on that team well-being? How are they doing on the performance of their team, etc. And so every quarter, I publish a positioning of the plants, and their goal is to be on a classic 4-axis. I'm sorry, I don't have the presentation, but I've got a 4-axis grid that says upper top right-hand corner are the plants that are applying the foundations and that have the highest performance. And so the plants that are doing the best on the foundations are typically the ones that have the highest performance. And even more, the plants that are in phase 3 of our empowerment journey are absolutely up in the extreme right-hand corner. Now, can I convert that into how many euros we're saving or how many productivity gains we're making? No, I do an aggregate of performance against our 8 strategic indicators, against the application of our foundations, including the part of empowerment, and I do a scatter plot and I publish.
That's important. Transparent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very transparent. I mean, does everybody like my way of measurement? No. But I mean, when you're down in that, in the corner that people don't want to be in, is that lower left-hand corner, but it's the way it is. You know, you can change that plant, and but I'm very transparent.
Before we move to the next question, may we all take a picture here together to record this moment, please? Is it possible? Those who don't want to participate, we understand you may shut off the camera, but just for all of us to have this moment here, it's a tradition of this program. So Angela, could you please capture?
1, 2, 3. There you go. Let me see. It's working. Yes, let me just take one more. And 1, 2, 3. Okay, there you go.
Thank you. So I have another question before Sylvia. Sarah, this responsabilization project emphasizes 2 aspects that are typically lacking in many, if not most companies, which are trust in all employees and decision-making autonomy to frontline workers. And investing in these 2 virtues is easier said than done. And particularly, I would say, in manufacturing companies, as it requires a big change from many leaders who are used to this industrial revolution mindset in which employees are assumed to be, this is the truth, incapable of making decisions, sometimes lazy and not trustworthy. So my question is, can we say that having a positive premise about human beings in terms of their ethics, their intrinsic motivation, and their human potential is the base of this projet de responsabilisation?
Yes, I think so. I mean, as you've seen, one of our core values is respect for people, and that includes all of those things that you've talked about. And even though, as you said, Alexandre, it's easier said than done, one of the things that we have realized over the years is that nothing is automatic to stay in place. In other words, it takes a lot to create that trust, and you can lose it really quickly. And it also takes a lot of desire to keep those competencies in place and to keep those that reserve space updated. It takes work to do that. And there is no, okay, check the box, we're in phase 3 and now we're here to stay. Well, okay, we can say that, but it takes work on all of the sides to keep that going. And so, yes, you need a respect for our basic human needs, but you also got to realize that you got to want it to keep it. It is not automatic.
Mm-hmm. Great. Silvia, please feel welcome.
Hello, thank you. Alexandre almost stole my question.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to know a little bit more about trust, how to go about building trust, because I think that's very key in everything else in the environment. So since you've been exposed to very different peoples and very different environments, what are the building blocks of trust? Thank you.
I think if I had the answer to that, Sylvia, I would be a rich lady, huh? But I would say my own personal experience is you got to be transparent. You have to dare, you have to have the courage to accept that things are not going to be perfect right the first time in everything. You have to have a conviction that comes from your heart and not just from your head. Because at the end of the day, people connect with their hearts. That emotional side, I'm convinced of this. The emotional side is what makes us connect as human beings. And if people think that we're trying to just, spiel the company line and talk about what's in it for the company and why the company wants to do this, okay, so what? What's in it for me? And to have, I had a person teach me, and I didn't use his quote there, but I remember him and I remember the context. And it had to do with trust. And he told me, he said, Sarah, people trust who they know. And at that time I was plant manager, and I realized that this man was telling me the truth and that I did not know everybody that I needed to know to gain their trust. And so I went about getting to know all of the people in that circle that I really needed to have their trust in order to make a significant change. And he was right. I mean, people trust who they know. And if we, as managers, if we spend all of our time, looking at that computer screen and talking and making PowerPoints, and we don't connect on a human scale, very, very difficult to have and certainly to maintain trust. So I don't have a magic solution. I'll share with you what my experience has been.
Please go ahead, Marta.
Hello. Well, first of all, thank you very much. This has been incredibly insightful and enlightening. My question has to do as well with trust, but with trusting others as well. Like it's how do you evaluate the performance of those in the company? How do you choose? How do you make decisions about those who are aligned with the company's values, those who are not, and those who can grow inside of the company, and those who are truly not really who you want there for any reasons whatsoever. So it's one question to be trusted as a manager, and another to really trust those to whom you delegate so much power.
May I complement Marta's question, because it's in the same vein? I think what Marta has mentioned is the idea of a new kind of leadership. So from the traditional role of just giving orders and monitoring closely to a more supportive and humanized style, which is based on a less formal, let's say, coaching role. And so perhaps if you could talk about what kind of trainings or activities, or how do you change this mindset of leaders in all of the hierarchical levels?
Well, I'm going to tell you what we do, and I will say it in the manufacturing plants. I hate to say it, it's not as common in the home office headquarters environment, but in our manufacturing plants, I can share with you very concretely what we do. When we have our exercises for empowerment, because it's a structured approach, I won't say we start by, but one of the elements is to help improve that trust and to have that transparency that we need to start to create that trust. And so we have workshops where the boss gets out of the room and there's a facilitator there and says, what are your expectations of your boss? And so the team is to have to list some. And then, well, what are the areas that you need your boss to improve on? And so the team has to list some. And so then the boss comes back in and he's been doing the same thing on the other side, to saying, what do you expect of your team? And what do you think your team needs to improve on? Well, then there's the meeting where face-to-face where, okay, these are some things that we need to change, or this is what I need. And they get an agreement on what those needs are. And that agreement gets published in the handbook. In addition to that, we have sessions where we have those reserve spaces, and the boss shares his reserve space with his team and says, okay, I reserve the right to take the decision on X, and I give you the autonomy within this box, and making sure they understand, that we all understand what that reserve space is. And so we have that at each level in our company. And so we know the size of our box. And then we also, at the shop floor level, we do that as well with each of the manufacturing teams. And one thing in addition to that is we try our best, we're not perfect at it, but we try our best to have identified standards that says, if this happens, or this type of thing happens, that this is the standard. And there's an escalation process that says, this is what you do. And then there's an escalation process that says, if that doesn't work, then this is how you escalate to try to get help, so that somebody's not stuck on a night shift or a weekend with no help. Now, it's not perfect, but we really believe that those standards and the problem-solving method are absolutely key to being able to trust, because it's one thing to say, well, you're responsible, but then you don't give them the training, you don't give them the standard, you don't give them that escalation process. They're kind of stuck out there on a loan. Well, it doesn't take long to feel like you're hung out to dry instead of being helped. So there's several processes that have to take place, and that's why in the video it talked about there are many tools that have been developed along the way in a co-constructive way, because it's not a copy-paste. What fits in Rouen, France is probably not going to fit in Resende, Brazil, or Shenyang, China. There may be things, the spirit can be copy-pasted, but the actual mechanics have to be developed locally. So I'm not sure that helped, but it's one of the ways that we try to create trust, keep trust, and improve trust, because, as I said, it's not a check the box, it's done. You can lose it overnight.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. My question relates to this that you already said about the level, because for them to trust, they need to have a field of psychological safety, right? And
Yep.
I imagine that this field changes not only from country to another, but from team to team to
Yes.
other teams, right? How do you feel that? How do you empower the people for them and to guarantee that they have the safety to tell and not to get that used against them? First, this is one question, and the other question is, how has the projet de responsabilisation reduced the number of hierarchical levels? Does it have this relationship between the levels of the company or not? It didn't impact it at all.
Let me take the second question first, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is, has it changed the levels? Has it changed the head count? No, it hadn't changed the head count. Has it changed the levels? In some cases, yes. In other cases, no. There are some plants that had, I would say, 5 levels, the operator all the way up to a plant manager. And there are other plants that had 4. Most of them now are operating at 4. To my knowledge, there's none. Well, there may be a few operating at 3. But again, it's not about a headcount reduction. It's about a way that we want to unleash that leader in all of us. So it wasn't a productivity gain based project. It was more a human, let's respect our people and let's unleash the brain that all of us have. It's not just the managers who have a brain that can use it.
Mm-hmm.
Help me remember what the first one was about trust. And
it was about trust and about psychological safety. Do you have a measure to see which group or which teams are okay in a level of psychological safety or not? They are above or they're below. How do you measure these things to see if the place is really open for the employees to really enjoy and they're empowered, really?
Okay, now I get it. Okay. We do have a measurement. Like a lot of companies, we have a morale survey. We call it étude avancée ensemble, or moving forward together. And so it's got about 60 some questions on it. And it's based on the whole the portfolio of questions. But in that survey, yes, there are questions about empowerment. Do I trust my manager? Do I feel, I don't remember the exact way that the question is worded, but do I have that safe space? Do I feel like I belong to this company? Do I have pride in working for this company, etc.? And then at the end of that, it's done once a year. And then at the typically at this time of the year, we get the results back, and then there is worldwide and country and plant level heat maps that are generated that says this one is red in this area, or this one is yellow in this area, this one is screaming green, it's great, etc. So do we do it by question? Yes. Do we do it by question, by country, by plant? There's many ways that we analyze that data. Do I look at all of the data regarding empowerment? Yes. And do I try to make correlations between those empowerments and various aspects of my manufacturing system? Yes. And that's why I have start to have a good feeling for this one is a lever that I know impacts this one on results. I'm just now starting all those correlations, but the first results are quite encouraging. So yes, we do it with an employee morale survey, but it's much more than morale.
Fantastic. And Sarah, please, can we have time for a last question?
Yes, yes, we're good.
Okay, thank you very much. So Thais, please.
Oh, thank you. It's quite quick. I'm very interested in your transcultural experience because you've been in so many different places doing managing, I think. And I was thinking in my very humble transcultural experience as being half Brazilian, half Japanese, and also I'm a psychiatrist and I've been working here and I've spent some time in China, some time in the Netherlands, and I always think it's quite difficult and different to deal with how different people relate to authorities. I could see in China people seeing authorities like orders. You wouldn't give them an order, but if a doctor tells them to do something, it was like a sentence sometimes. I could see how Europeans were very comfortable with sharing the decisions and could easily feel disrespected if they were not included in the discussion about the therapeutic plan of what to do. And I have some personal impressions about how Brazilians work with authorities. And and I want to know if you have some impressions too, as you have two important fabrics here, I think, and you might have some insights on how to do different aspects of the Brazilian culture in relation to authority and how to empower people and share responsibility with them.
Okay, well, I don't have clear experience working and living in Brazil. However, I will tell you that my experience, I mean, I was in China for 8 years, I was in Romania, I'm here in France, I've been in America, etc. Authenticity is very important. Now, that's at a personal level. My personal experience is there are countries in the world that are very, very strong hierarchy power. The boss says it, the doctor says it, somebody in power says it, and we salute the flag and move out and we do. There are not all the countries that are like that. There are other countries who absolutely, okay, they don't necessarily have a lot of respect for their hierarchy. They have a respect for the position, but maybe not the person, and they do what they want to do. The key to connecting to any of those people, I think, is authenticity. If they believe that we as a person believe that we are doing the right thing and it's good for the company or whoever, and it's good for the person, and that we connect on that emotional basis, we've got a chance that we're going to make that change, because we're all about change. That's all of us are. So my simple change management method, I didn't put it in here, but it's the first thing you do. If you make the why and the what clear, then you make it easy to do, and you inspect what you expect, you follow up, then you got a chance of making that change. And that is worldwide. Now, my experience in Asia is they really don't care so much about the why, but they're really, really interested in the what. They will ask a million questions to get the what very clear. Whereas in Europe and in the United States, they really care about the why. They're okay if the what is not so clear because they're thinking they're smart enough to figure that out. And they're okay with ambiguity. Whereas at least the people in China, and I don't know, maybe the same in Japan, but they really didn't care about the why. They really wanted to know the what. And on both sides, they all wanted to be left the autonomy to know and to figure out the how. And so that those little cultural learnings that I had have helped me immensely to realize, okay, what is my audience and what is really clear for these people? Because what was clear to me 10 years ago is a little bit different than it is now, because I've lived and worked in different places. And you're absolutely right. You have to know the audience, and you have to know what is important. And if it's a change that we want to make clear, I'm pretty sure my little 3-step method will work, because I've tried it, I've done it, and it at least it's worked for me. So if you got the way to make the change and you make that personal connection, that authenticity, you got a chance.
Fantastic. This word authenticity is the key, right? So Sarah, once again, we would like to deeply thank you for your time, for your generosity of sharing here with us your experience, your views about life in a broader sense. And it's very inspiring to see a large company such as Michelin striving to become more purposeful, values-based, humanized, and in order to create a sustainable value for all its stakeholders, its constituencies. So on behalf of this group, we have learned a lot. We are going to share with all of you her presentation, okay, after this session. And I think all of you join me here to thank Sarah now. And hopefully we can be in touch again in the future, right? So thank you once again.
Resende. Resende.
Yes.
Would be my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
so much, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.